Tazia woke to the familiar trill of her alarm at 5:30. The room was still wrapped in darkness. Only a faint orange glow from the street lights outside slipping through the thin curtains. She reached out quickly to silence the phone before the sound could disturb. Tavarios. He was a heavy sleeper in the mornings, and she had learned long ago that waking him before he was ready usually earned her a sharp comment or a groan loud enough to make her feel guilty for simply existing. She slipped her feet from under the quilt. The floorboards were ice cold against her bare soles. Their two-bedroom apartment on Chicago's South Side had never been kind to winter mornings. The old radiators hissed and clanked, but never truly warmed the space. Kezia stood for a moment, hugging herself, letting the chill wake her fully before she padded quietly to the bathroom. In the mirror above the sink, she met her own tired eyes. 32 years old, but the reflection looked closer to 40. Dark half-moons curved beneath her lashes no matter how much concealer she layered on. Fine lines had begun to frame her mouth, etched deeper by years of holding back words she wanted to say but never did. Her hair, once glossy and carefully braided every 2 weeks, now showed new growth at the roots and needed moisture desperately. She had neither the time nor the extra $40 for a proper salon visit. She splashed cold water on her face, the shock of it pulling her more awake, then brushed her teeth and began the slow ritual of getting ready for another day. "You up early again?" Tavarius's voice floated from the bedroom, thick with sleep and irritation. "I have to be at the clinic by 8, she answered softly, pulling an old plaid sweater over her head. The elbows were already thin. "Go back to sleep, Tav. How am I supposed to rest when you're clattering around at the crack of dawn?" He rolled over, pressing his face into the pillow. "Damn!" Kezia bit the inside of her cheek. She didn't reply. 5 years ago, when they first moved into this apartment together, he used to wake up with her. He would shuffle into the kitchen in sweatpants, brew coffee while she showered, kiss the back of her neck and murmur, "You're the finest woman in the world. Kez, don't let nobody tell you. Different." He'd pack her lunch sometimes, peanut, butter on toast and an apple, then walk her to the door. Promise dinner would be waiting when she got home. That version of Tavarius felt like a memory from someone else's life now. In the kitchen, she boiled water for instant coffee and stood by the windowsill, eating a single slice of toast with a thin smear of processed cheese. There was never time for anything more elaborate. By 7, she was already locking the door behind her, coat zipped to her chin, hurrying toward the bus stop in the pre-dawn cold. The community health clinic was a 25-minute ride on a good day, 40 when the buses ran late, which happened at least twice a week. She worked the front desk, answering phones, scheduling appointments, listening to patients explain, sometimes yell, why their insurance denied a claim, smiling politely at doctors who barely looked up from their tablets. The work was repetitive, draining, and paid $2,800 a month after taxes. It wasn't enough to live luxuriously, but it was steady. Right now, steady was the only thing keeping the lights on. Tavarius hadn't held a conventional job in almost 3 years. He called it building an empire. It started with an online supplement store, vitamins, protein powders, all natural wellness. Then came a consulting agency for small businesses that never consulted anyone. After that, a computer repair service that mostly repaired his own laptop when it crashed. From too many browser tabs. Each venture began with excitement and large promises. Each one ended the same way. A drained savings account, another investment opportunity, and Tavarius insisting that the next idea would be the one. "I'm building a future. Kez," he would say, whenever she gently asked whether he might consider a temporary 9-to-5. "You don't understand how business works. You gotta invest. You gotta have patience. Look at Jay-Z. Look at all the moguls. They took risks." So she endured. After the clinic shift ended at 5 p.m., she usually had just enough time to stop at the grocery store, buy the cheapest cuts of meat and whatever vegetables were on sale, then head home. Most evenings, she sat at the small desk in the corner of their bedroom and opened her second job. Remote bookkeeping for small businesses. Invoices, payroll, tax prep, balance sheets. She handled it all until her eyes burned and the clock showed midnight or later. That work brought in another $1,500, $2,000 a month. Sometimes a little more when a client had a rush job. Between the two incomes, she paid the rent, the electricity, the internet, groceries, and still managed to set aside whatever Tavarius asked for his latest launch capital, a new domain name, better camera equipment for product photos, a course on scaling your online business. She never said no. Saying no felt like betraying the future he kept promising. She came home around 9:15 that evening, arms aching from 2 heavy grocery bags. Her feet throbbed inside boots whose sole was beginning to peel away from the upper. Tavarius sat on the sofa, laptop balanced on his knees, eyes locked on the screen. The kitchen sink held the dirty dishes from his lunch. Crumbs dotted the table beside an empty mug and a torn-open pack of cookies. Kezia set the bags down, took off her coat, and began washing the dishes without a word. "Kez, you could at least take a breath first," Tavarius said without looking up. "You always doing too much." "If I don't wash them, who will?" she answered quietly, scrubbing a plate. "Man, whatever. They'll still be there tomorrow. House ain't gonna crumble in one night." She didn't reply. There was no point. Once upon a time, they used to cook together, laughing over burnt rice, bumping hips at the stove, planning weekend trips they never took. He used to help her reorganize the closet on Saturdays, paint the bedroom walls, talk about kids in a bigger place someday. Now she felt like hired help in her own home. She finished the dishes, wiped the counters, put the groceries away, heated leftover vegetable soup for herself, and sat at the table to eat alone. Tavarius wandered into the kitchen a few minutes later, poured himself tea from the kettle she had boiled that morning, grabbed an apple, and returned to the sofa. "Tav," she said cautiously, after swallowing a spoonful of soup. "Let's go somewhere this Sunday. Maybe just a walk in Millennium Park or down by the lake. We haven't gone anywhere together in months." My mind is on business," he answered, eyes never leaving the screen. "I ain't got time for strolls right now. Don't you get that? I'm in a crucial phase. Dion found an investor who's ready to put money in. I gotta prep the pitch deck, the business plan." She let the rest of his sentence fade into background noise. She had heard variations of this speech hundreds of times. A major breakthrough was always one investor, one pitch, one more month away. It never arrived. She finished her soup, washed the bowl, and moved to the bedroom desk. 2 client reports were due by morning. She turned on the small lamp, opened her laptop, and sank into columns of numbers, while the television blared sports commentary from the living room. Every few minutes, Tavarius shouted at the screen over a missed shot or a bad call. That was how the days passed. Week after week, month after month, she had forgotten the last time she bought anything new for herself. Her favorite jeans were worn thin at the knees. Her winter boots leaked in slush. But last month, Tavarius had asked for $1,000 for equipment for his newest venture, and she transferred it without hesitation. One evening, as she changed for bed, he looked up from his phone and said, "You should really join a gym, Kez. You let yourself go." "Look at you." She froze, t-shirt halfway over her head, standing in an old bra and house sweatpants. "Tav, I'm just tired," she said quietly. "I don't have time for a gym. I work from 8 in the morning till midnight most days." "Everybody finds time if they want to," he dismissed, scrolling again. "Look at Chanice, Dion's wife. She keeps herself tight, nails done, always looking fly, and you know what I mean." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Kezia pulled the t-shirt down, climbed into bed, turned toward the wall, and clenched her fists beneath the covers. Tears burned behind her eyelids, but she refused to let them fall. Crying wouldn't change anything. Tomorrow would still come, and tomorrow would still require her to get up at 5:30 and start again. A week later, they were in the kitchen. She was frying burger patties while he scrolled on his tablet. "You know, Kez," he said suddenly, "real wives create an environment for their husbands to succeed. Take Mark's wife. She doesn't work at all. Stays home, cooks, cleans, and he handles business in peace. Marcus has his own firm that actually makes money." She flipped a patty, keeping her voice even. "What are we supposed to live on if I don't work, Tav?" "See, that's exactly why nothing works out for me," he snapped. "Because I have to think about bills. About you being tired and miserable all the time. I can't focus. If you were bringing in real money, or better yet, if you just stayed home and supported me properly, I could think big. But instead it's always, we don't have enough. Always penny pinching." She turned off the stove. The patties were done. She plated them silently. He took one, bit into it, and grimaced. Too much salt. She tasted her own. The salt was fine. Winter crawled by, then finally gave way to spring. Kezia kept working both jobs. Tavarius grew colder. Sometimes he didn't come home at night. Saying he was at Dion's discussing business plans so late it made sense to crash there. She stopped asking questions. She was afraid of the answers. Then came an ordinary Tuesday evening in May. Kezia had just set a pot of rice on the stove and was chopping vegetables for a salad when Tavarius's phone rang. He answered quietly, but she could hear the strange excitement in his voice. "Yeah, I got it. Tomorrow, 11 a.m.? Okay. Thank you for letting me know." He hung up and sat motionless for several seconds, staring at the wall. Then he jumped up, paced the living room, rubbing his hands together. "What happened?" Kezia asked, stepping out of the kitchen with the knife still in her hand. Tavarius turned. A strange, greedy smile curved his lips. "Granddaddy died," he said. The rice boiled over while Kezia stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, knife still in her hand. The sharp smell of scorched starch filled the small apartment, but she barely noticed. Tavarius was pacing now, hands rubbing together like a man who had just won the lottery. "Granddaddy died," he repeated, the words sounding almost celebratory. "And the lawyer called. He left a will. I'm in it, Kez. He definitely had that 3-bedroom downtown in Indianapolis. I remember it from when I was little. Maybe cash, maybe stocks, maybe another property. This is it, finally." Kezia felt something cold settle in her stomach. She set the knife down carefully on the counter. "Tav, I'm so sorry," she began, wiping her hands on a dish towel and stepping closer. "How did it happen? Was he sick?" Tavarius gave a short, mirthless chuckle. "Sorry? Yeah, sure, it's sad. He was 88. But that ain't the point. The point is the money. The lawyer said the reading's the day after tomorrow. 11 a.m. sharp, I gotta be there." He started pacing again, faster now, words tumbling out. "You know what this means? No more of this broke-ass life. No more begging for scraps. I'm finally getting the break I've been waiting for. I told you, Kez. I told you everything was gonna work out. We just had to hold on." Kezia watched him. The man in front of her wasn't grieving. He wasn't even pretending. His eyes shone with something greedy, almost feverish. His own grandfather, his only living grandparent, had passed away, and Tavarius's first thought was real estate and bank accounts. "Maybe we should organize the funeral first," she said gently. "Send him off properly. Auntie Varys will probably handle most of it, but—" "Auntie Varys can deal with all that," he cut her off, waving a hand. "She lives right there in Indy. They were close. Let her handle the church and the flowers and whatever. I got bigger things to think about. I need to be sharp for the lawyer. Clothes, documents, everything." He didn't sit still the rest of the evening. He called friends, cousins, anyone who would listen. The same script every time. "Yeah, Granddaddy passed. Left a will. I'm finna be rich, fam. Finally catching my break." He laughed too loud on the phone. Paced too fast, rubbed his palms together like he could already feel the cash. The rice had burned into a black crust at the bottom of the pot. Kezia turned off the stove, scraped the ruined grains into the trash, and went to the bedroom without eating. There was a lump in her throat that wouldn't go away. She lay in the dark, listening to Tavarius's excited voice drifting through the thin walls, and wondered when the man she fell in love with had disappeared. 5 years earlier, they had met at a friend's birthday party. He was charming then, quick smile, easy laugh, eyes that stayed on her when she spoke. He brought her flowers for no reason, took her to the movies, cooked terrible pancakes on Sunday mornings just to make her laugh. They talked about kids, about a house with a yard, about growing old together. When they moved into this apartment, it felt like the beginning of something permanent. Somewhere along the way, the dreams had curdled. His ventures failed one after another. The money she earned kept disappearing into his next sure thing. He grew resentful, as though her steady paycheck was proof of his failure instead of their survival. He stopped kissing her goodbye in the mornings, stopped asking about her day, started commenting on her weight, her clothes, her hair, as though she were the reason his life hadn't turned out the way he imagined. And now this. Death had become opportunity. The next 2 days, Tavarius was electric with anticipation. He Googled Indianapolis real estate prices, calculated square footage, estimated resale values out loud. That downtown condo alone could be worth $600-700 easy. Lake house? That's vacation rental money. Stocks? Who knows? Could be another $500,000 if they're good ones. He spoke in I instead of we. Kezia noticed, but said nothing. "Don't count your chickens," she tried once, setting plates for dinner. "You don't even know what's in the will yet." "I know what's going to be in it," he snapped back, waving his fork. I'm the only grandson. Granddaddy ain't got no other direct blood. Auntie Varys is just his late wife's sister, not even real kin. It's logical. Everything comes to me. He paused, looked at her across the table with an appraising stare she hadn't seen before. The kind of look you give an old car you're deciding whether to keep or sell for parts. You know, Kez, he said slowly, maybe it's time you started thinking about your appearance. When I get this money, I'm gonna need a wife who matches the status. Look at you, dressing like you shopped the bargain bin. Hair ain't done, no nails. I'd be embarrassed taking you anywhere nice. The words landed like slaps. Kezia felt heat rush into her cheeks. Her hands trembled under the table. I dress like this because we don't have money, she said, trying to keep her voice level. I put every dime toward bills and your projects. There you go again, he sneered. Always with the guilt trips. Real women figure out how to look good even when money's tight. You just don't prioritize, right? She opened her mouth to argue, but the words died in her throat. Tavarius had already stood up, leaving his plate on the table, and walked out of the kitchen. That night she stood in front of the hallway mirror for a long time, old sweater pilling at the sleeves, jeans faded and thin at the knees, hair pulled back in a tired ponytail, new growth showing at the temples, tired eyes. She looked exactly like a woman who had spent 5 years carrying 2 full-time jobs so her husband could chase dreams that never landed. She went back to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and drank it slowly. Something inside her cracked, not dramatically, not with tears or shouting, but quietly, irrevocably. She knew then that no amount of money was going to bring back the man she used to love. That man was gone. Maybe he had never truly existed. The morning of the will reading, Tavarius woke before her, another small shock. By 7:30 he was already in front of the mirror, brushing his waves, adjusting the collar of his best white shirt, the one they bought 2 years ago for a cousin's wedding. Does this look okay? He asked when she came out of the bedroom. Tie or no tie? Too much? You look good, she said quietly. Of course I look good, he muttered, turning side to side. Today's a big day. Today I find out how much I got. He skipped breakfast, burned his tongue on scalding coffee, checked his watch every 90 seconds. At 9:45 he grabbed his jacket. You want me to come with you? Kezia offered. For support. He whipped around as though she had suggested something obscene. For what? This is Vance's family business. You got nothing to do with it. The words stung more than she expected. Family business. After 5 years of paying rent, cooking meals, washing his clothes, funding his dreams, she wasn't family. Okay, she said. He left without a goodbye. The door slammed. The day at the clinic dragged. Phones rang, patients complained, doctors barked orders. Kezia moved through it like a ghost. During lunch, she texted him, "How's it going?" The message showed red, no reply. She got home at 7 p.m. The apartment was empty. She heated yesterday's soup, it's standing at the counter, then sat at her computer to finish a client report. But she couldn't concentrate. Every few minutes she looked toward the door. Tavarius returned at 9:30. She met him in the hallway. He stood there smiling, not a happy smile, but something predatory. Everything is excellent, he said, shrugging off his jacket. Even better than I thought. What happened? She asked, stepping closer. An apartment, 3 bedrooms, 200 square feet, downtown Indy, a lake house out in the suburbs. Bank accounts. Stocks Granddaddy bought years ago. Lawyer says all in all, about $2 million. Maybe more once they get it appraised. Kezia sat on the edge of the armchair. $2 million. The number felt unreal. Lord have mercy, she breathed. I'm rich now, Kez, he said. Finally, no more living in this dump. No more counting pennies. I'm buying a luxury condo, a Benz, launching the business I always wanted. Everything's changing. He said I, not we. When can you finalize it? She asked. A week or 2. Papers, appraisal, formalities, but the money's mine. He walked to the window, looked out at the city lights, then turned to her with a long, cold stare. You know, Kez, he said, voice edged with something new. I got a lot to think about tonight. So I'm going over to Dion's. Chill, talk it over. I'll be late. Don't wait up. And he left again. Door slam. Silence. For the next 2 days, he barely came home. When he did, it was late, after she was asleep. He left early. They barely spoke. He was lost in his new future, one that seemed to have no space for her. Then came Sunday. Kezia was sitting at the kitchen table with coffee, scrolling news on her phone. Tavarius had locked himself in the bedroom all morning. Suddenly he came out, face set with purpose. "Kasia, we need to talk." His tone made her go cold. "About what?" He poured water, drank it fast, then turned to her. "I've been thinking. We're stuck, Kez. Been treading water for years. I don't want to live like this anymore." "What do you mean?" She stood slowly. "I mean, I need to move forward. Start a new life. And you? You're an anchor. You're dragging me down." Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Tavarius, what are you saying?" "I'm saying we need to break up. I want a divorce." The words landed like a physical blow. "Are you serious?" she whispered. "Dead serious. I thought it all through. It's best for both of us. You'll find someone who suits you. I'll start fresh. 5 years, Tavarius." Her voice cracked. 5 years. I supported you. I worked 2 jobs so you could— "I'm grateful," he interrupted flatly. "Really, but gratitude ain't love. Love left a long time ago. We got used to each other. That's all." "You waited until you got the money," she said quietly, staring at the floor. "That's why you didn't say anything before." Silence. That silence said everything. "I packed your stuff," he said. "Suitcase and 2 bags in the hallway. Clothes, makeup, books. You can get the rest later." She walked to the hall. There they were, her life reduced to luggage. "I prepped the papers," he continued, handing her a folder. "Mutual consent. No property claims. Sign here and here. I'll file it. Done in a month." Her hands shook as she took the pen. She signed once, twice, 5 years crossed out. "Good," he said, taking the papers back. "Quick, no drama. I always knew you were smart." He opened the door. "Have a nice life, Kez, or good luck finding another sucker to take care of you." She picked up the bags. They were heavy. She didn't wince. "You know what?" he called after her. "I almost feel sorry for you. You're decent. Just not my level. I'm playing big leagues now." She stopped on the threshold, looked at him one last time. "Goodbye, Tavarius," she said quietly. She walked out. Behind her, the door slammed. She heard his laugh, cruel, triumphant. She carried the bags down the stairs, stepped into bright spring sunshine, and called Tasha. "Tasha, it's me. Can I come over? I left Tavarius." Her voice broke on the last word. "Girl, of course, come on." "I'm waiting." Kasia ordered a ride, loaded the bags, sat in the back seat, and only then, when the car pulled away, did she let the first tears fall. The first few days at Tasha's apartment passed in a gray fog. Kasia slept on the pull-out couch, went to work at the clinic because routine was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Completely came back, ate whatever Tasha put in front of her, and went back to sleep. She moved like someone underwater, slow, muted, distant. Tasha didn't push. She made tea, left space, hugged her when the silence grew too heavy. That was enough. Tavarius didn't call, didn't text. It was as if she had been erased from his life the moment the door closed behind her. The silence hurt more than shouting would have. On the 4th day, her phone rang with an unknown number. "Miss Keziah Vance?" a calm male voice asked. "Yes, this is she. This is Attorney Thaddeus Sterling. From Hightower Law. Firm. I represent the estate of the late Eustace Vance. I need to meet with you regarding the inheritance matter. It's urgent." Kasia frowned, sitting up straighter on Tasha's couch. "I'm not a relative. That's my ex-husband's grandfather. We're divorced. Papers were just filed. That is precisely why I need to speak with you. Can you come to the office today? Around 6 o'clock? She glanced at the clock. It was just past 11. "I can come after work. 6 is fine." "Excellent. 1200 South Michigan Avenue, Suite 305. We'll be expecting you." All day the question circled in her mind. Why me? She had met Eustace Vance only twice. Once at a family barbecue years ago. Once when he visited Chicago briefly 2 years earlier. Polite greetings, small talk, nothing more. She barely remembered what he looked like. At 6:15 she stood outside Suite 305, took a deep breath, and pushed the door open. A receptionist nodded her through. Inside the office, a man in his 50s with graying hair and kind eyes sat behind a large desk. Attorney Sterling. To the side, near the window, sat an elderly woman in a black dress and church hat, Auntie Varys. And leaning against the wall, arms crossed and face pale, was Tavarius. He looked up when she entered. His eyes widened, then darted away. He looked smaller somehow, less certain. "Ms. Vance, please have a seat," Sterling said, gesturing to the chair opposite him. Kasia sat, clutching her purse in her lap. Her heart hammered. I'm Thaddeus Sterling, handling Eustace Vance's estate, the lawyer began. I called you here because a condition in the will has come into play, one I only summarized for Mr. Vance at our first meeting, but which must now be read in full in the presence of all interested parties. Tavarius clenched his fists. Kasia noticed but kept her gaze on the lawyer. Sterling opened a folder, put on his glasses, and began to read. All my property, including the apartment at 8 Central Street, the lake house property in rural Indiana, funds in Chase bank accounts, and the stock portfolio I bequeath to my grandson, Tavarius Vladimir Vance. However, he may receive this inheritance only upon fulfillment of the following condition. At the time of claiming the inheritance, Tavarius Vance must be in a legal marriage with his current spouse, Kasia Vance, continuously for a period of no less than 1 year from the moment of my death. Furthermore, in the event that the marriage is dissolved before the expiration of said term, or if at the time of my death Tavarius Vance is not married to Kasia Vance, all the aforementioned property shall transfer in full to Kasia Vance, as a person who has shown true nobility and dignity. The room went still. Kasia's mind moved slowly, as though the words were sinking through deep water. Tavarius made a choked sound. That's impossible. Granddaddy couldn't have written that. The will was drafted 2 years ago, Sterling replied evenly. Notarized, signed in the presence of witnesses. It is legally binding. But why? Tavarius's voice cracked. I'm his grandson. His only grandson. Auntie Varys rose slowly from her chair. Her eyes were sad but steady. Because Eustace saw you, boy, she said quietly. 2 years ago, when he came to Chicago and stayed with y'all for a few days. He saw how you treated Kasia, how you talked down to her, how she worked herself to the bone while you chased dreams that never came. He saw a good woman carrying a selfish man, and he decided to protect her. Tavarius sank into a chair, hands covering his face. When did you file for divorce? Sterling asked, flipping through papers. The day before yesterday, Tavarius answered hollowly. Expedited, paid extra. It was finalized yesterday at 3 p.m. Sterling nodded. The condition has been violated. The marriage was dissolved before the required 1-year period following the testator's death. Therefore, per the terms of the will, all property now transfers to Miss Kasia Vance. Tavarius shot to his feet. No, that's mine. I'm the grandson. I have the right. You had the right, Sterling corrected calmly. Until you dissolved the marriage. Now the right belongs to her. This is the expressed will of the deceased. Tavarius spun toward Kasia. His eyes were wild, desperate. Kez, he breathed, stepping closer. Kez, listen, this is a mistake. I didn't mean what I said when I threw you out. I was stressed. Inheritance, money, everything hit me at once. I wasn't thinking. Kasia watched him silently. We can fix it, he rushed on, dropping to his knees in front of her chair. We can get married again. The divorce was just yesterday. We can file to set it aside. Or we can remarry right now, please. He reached for her hands. His palms were clammy. Kez, please, don't do this. Don't destroy my life. Granddaddy wanted us together. He was testing us. We can still pass the test. You failed the test, Kasia said quietly, looking straight into his eyes. You kicked me out. You laughed at me. You told me I was a plain Jane who would never be good enough for you. I didn't mean it, he cried. I was a fool. Forgive me. I'm on my knees begging you. Forgive me. She stood. Tavarius stayed on the floor, looking up at her with panic. Get up, Tavarius, she said. Don't humiliate yourself. I'll do anything, he whispered, clutching the hem of her coat. Anything. We'll get married again. I'll give you half, 60%, 70. Please, Kez. She gently removed his hands and stepped back. I don't want to marry you, she said. Not for all the money in the world. You killed whatever was between us. I'm not going back to that. She turned to the lawyer. What do I need to do to claim the inheritance? Sterling nodded with quiet respect. You'll need to sign several documents, meet with appraisers, open new accounts. We can begin right now if you're ready. I'm ready, she said. Tavarius scrambled to his feet. Kez, wait! You can't just take everything. It's mine. I'll sue. I'll contest the will. You can try, Sterling said. But the will is airtight. The testator was of sound mind. Medical records confirm it. No court will overturn this. I won't let this happen. Tavarius shouted. Auntie Varys stepped forward and took Kasia's hand. Justice has already been served, she said softly. Eustace was a wise man. He knew what he was doing. Tears finally rose in Kasia's eyes, not from pain, but from gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. Tavarius stood frozen in the center of the room, face ashen. Everything he had dreamed of, gone in a single moment, destroyed by his own hands. "You may go, Mr. Vance," Sterling said. "Your presence is no longer needed. Ms. Vance will stay to handle the details." Tavarius opened his mouth, closed it, then turned and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him. Kezia exhaled. Only then did she realize she had been holding her breath. "Are you all right?" Sterling asked gently. "Just overwhelmed," she admitted. "I understand. But believe me, Eustace made the right choice. He spoke of you often when he updated the will, said you were the only person in his grandson's life who deserved respect." Auntie Varys hugged her shoulders. "Hold on, baby. The worst is over. Now a new life begins." The following weeks were a whirlwind. Meetings with lawyers, appraisers, bankers, signing papers, opening new accounts. The lake house needed minor repairs. The downtown condo was already hers. The stocks, when fully evaluated, pushed the total value closer to $2.5 million. Auntie Varys helped with everything. Over tea one afternoon, she told Kezia the full story. "Eustace told me when he changed the will," she said. "Said, Varys, that boy's selfish. If he don't change in a year after I'm gone, let the good woman get something for all she endured." He couldn't stand seeing kindness wasted. Tavarius tried to fight. He called daily, begging, then threatening, then begging again. He showed up outside Tasha's building, outside the clinic. Kezia walked past him every time. Each encounter hurt less. Eventually it stopped hurting at all. One night he appeared at Tasha's door with wilting roses, eyes red, shirt wrinkled. "I've been sleeping on the stairs," he croaked. "Waiting for you. Come back, Kez, we'll get married. You can have it all. Every penny." Kezia looked at him, really looked, and felt nothing. "You showed me who you are," she said. "I don't want that man in my life." "Goodbye, Tavarius." She closed the door on his sobs. A month later, the paperwork was complete. Kezia walked into the downtown condo, high ceilings, tall windows, old but solid furniture, bookshelves filled with history and poetry. Eustace's presence lingered in every corner, calm, quiet, wise. She quit both jobs. No more 14-hour days. No more pinching pennies. She signed up for French classes. Took up painting again, something she loved as a child but had abandoned. She bought clothes she actually liked. Went to salons, cut her hair into a sleek style. Slowly she came back to herself. She started a small foundation to help women leaving abusive or draining. Relationships, legal aid, temporary housing, job placement. Auntie Varys smiled when she heard. "Eustace would be proud," she said. "Money should do good, not just sit." Tavarius faded from the news. He lost the apartment lease, crashed on Dion's couch, chased odd jobs but never lasted long. His ego wouldn't bend to entry-level work. A new girlfriend appeared, then disappeared when the money didn't. 6 months later, Kezia sat in a coffee shop reading when the door opened. Tavarius walked in, gaunt, unkempt, cheap jacket, stubble. Beside him was a young woman with heavy makeup and an irritated expression. "How much longer, T? You promised a real restaurant, not this spot. Do you even have money?" "I got it, Candy, just tight right now." He saw Kezia, froze. She looked up, met his gaze, then calmly returned to her book. He hesitated, then followed the girl to the counter, counting change for 2 coffees. The girl rolled her eyes. Kezia finished her cappuccino, left a generous tip, and walked out into warm Indian summer sunshine. She didn't look back. Later that week, she stood on the condo balcony, glass of wine in hand, city lights glittering below. "Thank you, Granddaddy Eustace," she whispered. "For seeing me, for justice. I won't waste this." She smiled into the night. The next morning, she booked a solo trip to Italy, Venice, Florence. She wanted to see beauty and feel it. Without anyone telling her she didn't deserve it. She painted. She laughed with Tasha. She helped women who reminded her of her old self. And somewhere in the city, Tavarius stared into empty coffee cups, regretting the day he chose pride over love. But that was no longer her story. Her story was sunlight, open doors, new colors on canvas, and a life that finally belonged to her. She walked forward, light, free, and whole.